What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracey, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. I'm so excited. I have my friend Jeanine Yancy in the studio from Yancy Interior Design, and Jeanine is a first-generation business owner. So we're going to talk about what that looks like, and all the stuff that goes into that. Super excited because I think there's a lot of people listening to the podcast are that first generation, or they don't know a lot of people that have started a business, and so super excited to kind of kick that off. I met Jeanine through SiriusNet, and so I've always got to mention and shout out Steve and SiriusNet for the platform that you've built, and the connections and the relationships that have come about on that. And then I've got to know Jeanine over the last couple of months even closer, as she's been a part of the objection handling boot camp, and then also the solopreneur sales and marketing L10 that I have. And so hearing more of her story in just the difference that she's making in people's homes, I had to have her on and tell more of that. So Jeanine, welcome to the studio.
Thanks, Jason. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited for you to be here. And so we saw each other briefly this morning. I'm like, are you ready? You're
yeah. And I was like, I'm terrified, but we'll get through it. It'll be fun.
That's my favorite when people are terrified, because then it's like afterwards, like, how did it go? How
right.
do you feel?
I'm sure it will be fine. I've listened to many episodes, and I always get something out of every episode. And you always seem to get people to relax and divulge all sorts of things. So
thanks. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things, outside of like, it's cool. You're like, oh my God, you don't see the cameras, here. And like people are watching, you don't see kind of what's all set up here. You just see kind of us
all
talking.
That goes into it,
and you don't see all the magic behind. And it's serious.
Yeah,
we
it's
have
cool.
Cam and Johnny in here and adjusting us and getting us ready. It's that whole professional setup, and then all the cameras. And what's cool is when we dive into the conversation, we kind of forget all that stuff is there.
I hope so.
So tell me more about your business and how you got started.
So my business is Yancy Interior Design. I have a bachelor's degree in interior design, and I went into kitchen and bath design specifically after I graduated from college. So I've been doing kitchen and bath design for 15 years, and then the 16th year, I've been on my own. I always wanted to go on my own, but it's a very scary thing. And as you said, I didn't really know anyone. No one in my family has owned their own business. Didn't grow up in that world. But it always kind of intrigued me, the flexibility and the ownership and all of that. But of course, there's a lot involved with it that I didn't know either. But kitchen and bath design is what I know the best. That's kind of my specialty, just cabinets and the materials, and just the remodeling, how things go together and the order of things. So I like helping homeowners through that, because most people, they don't do it. Usually it's their first time, or they've only done it one other time, but it was a little different. Maybe they DIY'd it the first time, or they only did a partial remodel or something like that. So my favorite is when we pretty much gut the space and we start over, and I help them. I do a drawing and help them select everything and order everything and schedule everything. And then ideally, if I can bring in a contractor as well, who I already have a good relationship with, that makes it go even smoother, and just kind of be there to back the homeowner up and help answer questions and communicate things, because usually there's just some misunderstandings between them and the contractor, or just take that extra step of communication and checking in on the way and making sure timeframes work with them and send them reminders. And, because life is busy, they have other things to do. So even though they really want this to get done, they can't be involved in every little piece. So that's where I fill in and kind of mediate and fill in the cracks and the gaps on those kinds of things.
That's so awesome, because it's got to be like, as you're talking, like you're doing it for the first time, or it's not something you do like every 5 years, it's not something that you do regularly. So getting that expert that can come in and help them guide through that experience has got to be just a difference maker.
Yeah, and it's a huge investment. It's a huge interruption to their life. It's a lot to manage. There are more parts and pieces to remodeling an entire room or multiple rooms than people realize. A lot of times you're like, oh, it's just the shower and just this. Well, with a shower, there's tile and plumbing fixtures and rough plumbing fixtures. And do you have the right bracing? And then you have to select what color you want. And there's a wall and floors and accents and shelving. And there's so many parts and pieces that we don't have to normally think about. We just go in and use it and, So, but when you're going to select it all, it just pays off to have a plan and a design. And then that helps communicate it to the contractor to have it implemented. And you want to address all those questions and make it as clear as possible up front to reduce the questions and changes and concerns that can come up after the fact. Because if it comes up while we're doing the work, it's a whole huge interruption and it makes things a lot harder. So
I can imagine.
yeah. So it's fun. I enjoy doing it. And especially when people can verbalize and see the difference and appreciate how much you took off their plate, or in the end, they're really excited with the design result that they got or the difference it made in their life. Now they like using their kitchen, or their bathroom is safer for them to use, or things like that. That's really...
Actually, I keep on thinking, I say it all the time, difference making, but again, you're thinking about bathroom, kitchen, places where people spend a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
And what's a story of somebody that got that kitchen redone and it just changed their vibe?
So I recently had a client that they have an older home. They haven't really been able to remodel anything yet. They've been in there a while, but now their kids are starting to get older. And most people are like, we've wanted to do this for so long. We've been dreaming about it, or we've been saving for so long. But bringing all of that together is usually really hard for them to turn it into a plan. So they've probably saved a ton of pictures on Pinterest or House, and they've probably thought of all sorts of scenarios of what could be improved or what they don't like. So I have to take all of that information and get all of that out of them, ask the right questions to put it into a plan. And everything affects the plan. So the timeline that you want to get it done in, the price range that we can afford and how much we're willing to put into the space, and then how you use the space. What do you need more storage for? What are you struggling to use? How, do you drink coffee, or how do you cook? Do you need pantry space? Are there going to be kids in the kitchen? How many cooks are in the kitchen? All those, just so many questions. And then aesthetic preferences as well. So every part and piece can affect how the end result comes out. I want to touch back on the budget range. I think a lot of homeowners are afraid to give their budget up front because they assume that we're going to try and charge them the highest amount.
Yeah.
But you really want to be honest, and that budget range has a huge impact on what you're going to get. You do get what you pay for majority of the time. So if you're not honest about how much you really want to put into the project to get what you want out of it, then that can drastically affect what you're going to get out of it. Because we need to know. And a lot of people think that, well, if we just change one thing, we can save, thousands and thousands of dollars, and it doesn't really typically work that way. Usually, there's a little bit here, a little bit there. Like, let's come up with the plan. Let's start with the dream, right?
Yeah.
To get what you want, make sure the spaces be functional. Because is it worth doing if you don't get what you want overall? And then sometimes we can still keep the big picture, keep it functional, keep the aesthetic look you're going for, but maybe there's some certain things, a little bit here, a little bit there, we could compromise on to help get into a more comfortable price range. But there's so much that we have to talk through to get there.
Well, just even thinking of all those great questions that you had, like how many times are you thinking about all that stuff as the homeowner? Again, I think of the Pinterest and you have all the stuff and the pictures and everything else, but how do you then merge that and bring it together? And then even if you have the aesthetic look to it, is it functional for you and your family?
Yeah, I really think function first definitely has to be the priority, because it can be pretty.
Yeah.
Any space you can make pretty, but if it doesn't function for you, or it's pretty, but not your style, or you don't like it, then what good is it? What difference does that make? But first, I definitely think we have to make it functional first and know how the space is going to work for that homeowner. And then we can certainly, there's so many options and
style
ways
to
to
it.
make it pretty around the function. Because, there's just almost unlimited options on cabinets and colors and how you mix things to get different styles. And that's where people get overwhelmed is there are so many choices
Yeah.
that they're like, which one's the right one? And now social media is screaming at them that you should do this, you should do that. This is what's in, this is what's out. And I think that's very distracting. It can be helpful and create ideas and inspiration, but it can also be distracting and distract you from what you like. So I do tell people all the time, it's your home.
Yeah.
Your money is going into this and you're the one that's going to use it unless we're remodeling solely to sell the place. But most of the time people plan on enjoying it and want to do it for themselves. Then you really need to hone in on what you want and what you like and how the space is going to be functional for you and your family. Because if you're going to be here 5 to 10 years or longer, then by the time the next person gets the house, no matter what you do, they're probably not going to like it. So it's not worth putting that much attention into that.
That makes so much sense. I also, that kind of ties in with what we were talking a couple weeks ago in like that logical step for you in the process of going out to the home in, you know, in actually being there with people.
Yeah, being in the home is a game changer, really. It helps me to see more than just the space that they want to remodel, because we want to make sure it's going to be cohesive throughout the entire home. So we don't want your kitchen or your bathroom to look completely different than the rest of the house. And usually, maybe if you're going to remodel the whole rest of the house, I need to know that. Or if you already have done some remodeling, or usually people have a room or two that they do like, and then other rooms they don't. And so all of that and the surrounding spaces, what the kitchen is open to, what does the bedroom look like with the bathroom? A lot of times people focus on the master bath first. So all of that can play in as well to make sure things don't look out of place, you know. So, and then I can get a sense of how they live in the home and where do they come in? Where do they bring their groceries in? Do they use the front door? Do they use the garage door? Where is the garage door in the relation to the kitchen? How do you access the master bathroom? And another thing that I am certified aging in place. That's something I think I got just before COVID, and I'm leaning into that more now because I just see a demand for it.
Yeah.
There's a large community that wants to stay in their home. And I've just met a lot of people through CirrusNet that are in that world, that industry of helping people know how to stay in their home and age in place. So being certified aging in place, just that even more makes the home more safe, helps people stay in their home. And in the long term, staying in your home saves you money. So even accessibility of, do we need to make this a zero transition? What in the bathroom? Typically, it's the bathroom where you need to make it the safest because it can be slippery.
Like railings and...
Yeah. So just knowing the Certified Aging in Place course, that was a 3-day course I had to take to get certified. And then also I'm part of the National Kitchen and Bath Association, and they have guidelines and a whole book with ADA standards and things like that. And they have a lot of training on universal design, which goes beyond just making it accessible for disabilities or impairments. It's just, you should make every space beautiful and accessible for people of all different abilities and sizes and things like that. But being able to see the house so maybe not just this space, but that space, and how you get from this space to that space also would impact the design, or I can make better recommendations. Well, maybe we should do this before we do this because of how it affects one another, you know.
Well, and it's just huge because they get your vision, your experience, like your eye, you know, to even understand of maybe what they were thinking is even possible.
Yeah, if I can be in the home, I can guide them a lot better and answer questions and give them value and ideas and insight and guide them better on what a realistic price range would be. I think that's a really hard thing for people to research and determine, like, well, here's what I'd like to spend. And they kind of go off of that. Or my friend told me that they remodeled their bathroom for this much, but you don't know the whole story. Did they DIY their bathroom? Did they do the whole entire bathroom, or did they do part of the bathroom? Maybe they only did the shower and they called it a bathroom remodel, So, but I think people being sure about how much they can afford to put into it and how much is it going to cost. But if I'm in the space and can see it, then man, it helps. I can be way more accurate. And I've done enough. If you go on my house page, I've got 75 plus before and after pictures of projects. So I can usually compare that project to another project that I've done that was similar. Now, every project has its variables, and there's always some nuances that maybe this project is similar size to yours, but you want to take out a wall, or, moving utilities. All those little things can affect it to go up and down. But usually we can give you within a $20,000 range of I think we could be somewhere here to here and gauge their comfort level. But even if maybe they're not there yet, I can still give them value and ideas, and they have that education from me being in the home, and I give them follow-up notes, and now they can start to work towards that, and they have a much more solid idea of what they can do, and but the longer you wait, the more expensive it gets.
That's really cool, because I was going to ask you, when do you suggest to have that conversation? Because, going back to the beginning and saying it's so true, people have been thinking about these changes forever.
Yeah.
And just even thinking of my situation. So my house was built in 1900. So I kind of laughed when you talk about every circumstance is different, because if anything is wrong with you'll find it in this house.
Most people feel that way, no matter how old their house is.
No matter how old it is.
Yeah.
And so where our bathroom is, my wife has for the last 4 or 5 years been talking very passionately about moving the bathroom into, my son has a huge bedroom, and she wants to put the bathroom, he has a big area, turn that into and one side into a bathroom, and then open up where the bathroom's at and extend the kitchen, because it just takes up so much room in the kitchen to where they can't have a ton of people over and standing in the kitchen. And there's so many things that she wants to do with it, and she's been talking for years. And anybody that comes over and will half listen to her, she'll be asking him questions. And we had a plumber over, and it was like, my bathroom is literally above where the upstairs bathroom is literally above where she wants to put the new bathroom, and so she's like, wouldn't it be smarter if it was here? And so she's like, see, but we're waiting for our son to graduate, a couple of years for him to graduate and be out of she promised him that he would be gone before we did the move and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think about this because it's something we've talked about forever. And I think it's probably the norm, right?
Yeah.
You get so many families that at what point would you recommend having you come in and look at it?
I usually recommend that I come in, or they start that planning process 3 to 6 months before they would like the work to start. I don't think people realize how long it can take to just create the plan. So I usually need a few weeks to put together a design presentation so we'd have the in-home consultation. If we decide we want to move forward, then I measure the space, take lots of pictures and lots of notes, probably have more questions. So that I can put a design and an estimate together, and I need a few weeks to do that and gather all that information. And then from there can still be a few weeks to finalize everything, right? I'm going to give you a pretty good concept based on all the information you've given me, but usually there's I want to see a few more options on tile, or I'm not sure about that countertop color or something like that. So usually there's a few things to iron out. And that can take a few weeks, and that can take longer too, depending on how quickly that person makes decisions. I try to guide them and help them make decisions as quickly as possible and reduce the options. Okay, here's a few options that I recommend. Usually 3 I find is a good number, but it just varies with each client.
Yeah.
And then so just planning can take a couple months to get it. Okay, now we're ready to order. And then once you order, cabinets take the longest, and they can take another couple months for cabinets to come in. And ideally, the way that I know how to do it at previous jobs that I've had, and so I continue to do it that way, is we don't start a project until all the materials have arrived at the house. So, which typically is based on the cabinet ETA.
Yeah.
Because the plumbing fixtures, everything, tile, everything else
That
comes
stuff's
in
there.
much faster than cabinets. Cabinets are made to order, so they take a little longer. And that just reduces delays, because if there were a back order or something like that, then we're not interrupting the job. Because we have to be succinct for the contractor's schedule is too. They have to reduce trips. The more that they can be dedicated to time and not be running from here to here to here, or have a in-between day, a down day costs them a lot.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure everything is on site. Then we start demo. And and I like to be as hands-on as possible. So I try to come out every week and check in. So I'll kick off the project, go over it again with the contractor and the homeowner, because if we order it, now it's been 2 months since we've gone over it. We forget.
Yep.
So we got to review it once more, make sure the contractor has all the drawings and all his questions are answered, and the homeowner knows how's the contractor going to access the home, and how are they going to keep it clean, and what doorways are they going to cover, and how do you want them to access the home? Garage code, a key, or are you going to be home all the time? Because we want to interrupt their schedules as little as possible. Yeah, so you definitely want to trust your contractor and your designer. There needs to be a level of trust and comfort because they're going to be in and out of your home every day for a month to 2 months, depending on the size of the project, right? So, and the project can move more efficiently and quickly if they are able to get in and out without calling you every time, or they can't come in if you're not home. Now, we respect whatever the homeowner's comfortable with, but they need to be aware, right, that can affect the schedule quite a bit. Because if they lose a day, they can't come that day, then they had to go do something else to fill that day. That could take 2 days. So now, instead of them keep going, now you're going to have to wait until they're able to come back, so that we just want to keep it moving, keep it as efficient as possible.
And that's so helpful because you're there helping them really communicate with the contractor.
Understand that. Yeah, set expectations, really. Here's how it's going to go, and they know what the schedule looks like and who's going to be there, and basically what the hours of work are going to be. And we just really want open communication. I'll usually also try to have a group text with the contractor and the homeowner and myself, so that we can just be on the same page, and I can help field questions and back up whoever, is asking a question or has a concern. And then that just helps me know, like, can we deal with this through a text message, or maybe I'll hold on, I'm going to come out. When can I come out? It just depends on what's going on. Yeah.
I love what you said a little bit ago about like having to trust the contractor, and kind of taking it back even where the budget question. And I think through that process, it's for the client anyways, is getting to know who your people are. And if you don't trust them, do you want to go through that process of having them in your house? That's something to think about.
Yeah, I think people should take referrals. If you have, I don't think people take referrals or see the value in that as much as they should. If you have a trusted friend or family member or a neighbor, ask them questions. Ask to see the space. Ask them how the process went and why, if they like that contractor and why did they like that contractor, and meet with those people first. I mean, I do think people have every right to get multiple bids and interview a few people, but I would recommend go with your gut. You need to be with someone that you feel you have good communication with, you're comfortable with them and them being in your home. You trust them, that you've and then having that feedback from someone else that they had a good experience and they trust them, then that should have a lot of weight.
That should carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, I think so.
What's something, just kind of thinking of this as you're talking, what are some things that people should, like questions they should ask a designer, or, how would they know, I guess, when they have the right person?
So open communication, I think, is a big deal. You do want to know what their experience is like. And you'll have a sense, you'll know if they're being honest and upfront with you or not. Follow through. So they should call you back, answer your call. I think within 24 to 48 hours, if people aren't getting back to you, or they're not following through with what they say they're going to do, then that's a red flag, for really any industry, right?
Yep.
Communication. I think communication is really the biggest key and I've told contractors that too, like when I've run into issues sometimes, that like the biggest thing, no matter how beautiful the work is, no matter how good of a job you do, if you don't make that homeowner feel heard, if they don't feel that you care about what you're doing and you're not communicating well with them, they are not going to call you back.
5,000%.
Because I've had like homeowners like, oh, the work was great, blah, 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 but, and then they'll say all the things that they didn't feel that they were attended to or heard about, or that they didn't say when they were going to show up, or they didn't say when they were going to be late, or just the communication and that empathy for the homeowner and listening to what they say that they care about and need, that goes a lot further than having a beautiful kitchen. The work needs to be good, and I don't think people realize either, they don't think about that up front when they're hiring someone. Like, I want a beautiful kitchen, I want to see your work.
Yeah.
Well, it really matters. You probably want to enjoy the process to get there as well. And having someone that has good communication and is going to follow through and cares about, hearing you out and making sure that your questions and concerns are addressed. I think they don't even realize that that's going to go a long way for them in the end.
I think
That's
this is the biggest thing that's like
back.
missed in the sense of like what you're looking for. Because I love it because people can look at pictures, or they can see a friend's space that was done and be like, oh, I like the look of this. But what was that process like? Did they call back when you called them? When you had questions, did they answer them?
Right.
When there was a problem, did they?
Take?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and more, we just don't think about that, even though it is going to make a difference in the end, and it really is important to people. You make people feel heard all the time, and that it resonates with people, right? And they're going to remember that, and that builds trust that they want to feel cared about, and that's what they're going to call back. So
5,000%. It's like those. We don't necessarily look for that kind of thing, but if it's in your awareness and you're talking, we're talking about it right now, you can kind of see those signs. Because whether it's whether you're doing business with somebody or you're in a personal relationship with somebody, it's like the hindsight. You break up in a relationship and you're like, you see all the little things that you've probably seen and were like little red flags, but you were in love and so you ignored them. And so I think the same thing in business sometimes. Like, you want that kitchen or that bathroom done so much. This person's saying the right things, so when they don't answer your call and they don't call you back for a couple of days, you're like, okay, like this is that sucks, but we're gonna do it anyways. Right. And that stuff just compounds throughout the whole relationship.
Yeah, if they can't communicate well up front and unfortunately I do get jobs, and how many people tell me that how many contractors they tried to call and then they didn't show up at their house for even the initial consultation, or they showed up for the consultation but never got back to them with a quote or anything like that. Like, unfortunately, I'm getting these jobs just because I'm following through. And I don't think even salespeople or contractors realize how far that goes. Like, even just the common courtesy to just call back and say, I'm sorry, I won't be able to do your project, or I'm not going to be able to, we're not a good fit, or just communicating that. And I'm still working on that. It's hard to say no, or like, I want every project. I want to help every person. But I would like, it's just normal, common courtesy to just call back and not leave people wondering what's going on. 'Cause that's a delay for them as well, or just a lack of respect of other people's time.
5,000%. And it's those little things that add up, because as much as we think that should be the norm, it really isn't.
No, which seems
because we laugh about it. It sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, it's very strange, but I hear it so often, and I'm like, I don't get that. Like, why do you always will need business? Maybe you're busy right now, but we should follow through with every lead and every person and show just basic common courtesy, because who knows what that turns into later. And you're going to need, like for us, projects there's like a 3-month delay at least, right? Until like I'm getting the lead now, but we probably won't do the project for 3 to 6 months. And I'm going to need the work then just as much as I need it now, even though maybe right now you feel overwhelmed and stressed. Well, you don't want to in 3 to 6 months being like, oh no, I don't have any work. So every person counts, every single lead and person. And even if maybe you can't help them, you still showed that respect and they could still call you back next time to give you a chance because you led them in the right direction when you couldn't help them. And that's part of why I love CirrusNet too, is to have those resources when people need extra services that I can't help them with that, but I know someone that can. That I feel like that goes a long way in my service to them as well, which before I joined CirrusNet, I wouldn't have had like a junk removal guy and a house cleaning guy and all these trades, painters and electricians and, resources and coaching
landscaping
for me. Yeah,
and coaching.
Landscaping and just a lot of great resources. I gave somebody the roster today who was like, oh, there's a whole list of services, but here's the electrician, right?
And what's so cool, because I've been a part of networking groups before and, in Cirrus, like our group there's not a person in our group I wouldn't recommend or refer to, and I can't say that I've been a part of groups where like 100% of the roster, I'm like, oh yeah, you definitely need to talk to that person, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you know the ATA guys before you got into CirrusNet or did you meet them through?
No, I met them through ATA.
Okay.
Through CirrusNet.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So, I've helped them with a couple projects. Like they've kind of used me as on consultation basis when homeowners are struggling. But Alan's wife is starting to do design herself, and so she's gonna take that over and kind of do the drawing. She's learned SketchUp. She's taking courses, and she's gonna guide them through selecting everything. And they're gonna have I think when they get their building, they'll have a little bit of a showroom and more of a all-encompassing design build.
Gotcha.
Format. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Which will streamline it for them. So,
but
I told her, like, you have questions, I'd be happy to answer questions or give you feedback or, since she's kind of still learning it, just the order of things and how much do you do? Because as a designer, you want to show off a little bit or you just want to help so much. So you might overdo it a little, like, right? Or just like, you draw more than you need to for the initial. So I've given some feedback on that. Like, this is beautiful. It looks great, but maybe she only needs these 3 pages and not all these other pages. And, but I think they'll do well.
What led you down this path? How do you know this is what you wanted to do?
Well, even as a kid, I was always interested in houses and curious about my parents say we would be driving down the street or walking to school and be like, oh, I wonder what that house looks like inside. Or, oh, I wonder what that house looks like. And if we went to somebody's house that we hadn't been to before, I would ask for a tour of the house just because I wanted to see what it looked like. When I was elementary school, I started asking just like, can I get a tour of the house? Can I go look upstairs? And my kids do it now too. But because I was just interested, everybody's house is so different, or how they would decorate it, or anything. And then in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe I would do that different, or think about, I wonder why they did that, or. But I kept it to myself. I knew better. And then I think while I was in high school, Trading Spaces came out. I think that was like the first home remodeling show that I had ever seen. And I thought that was a really fun show. I really enjoyed watching that and the before and afters and some of the stuff I liked that they did. And some of it I thought was strange. And I've seen some flashback episodes sometimes on social media and I'm like, oh yeah, that was bad.
Like I'm watching it now with your lens.
Yeah, it'd probably be really bad. They did some weird things. But so I took AutoCAD class in my junior and senior year and just kind of learned computer-aided drafting and got some experience with rendering and just that initial part of it. And so I knew that I wanted to do something, but I did debate between interior design and architecture because I did like doing the drawing and I was even good with hand drawing and I liked art class and things like that. So I ended up going to Adrian College for interior design. And even there, I asked my professors, and I was still like, should I stick with interior design or should I switch and go into architecture. And then my professor's like, well, architecture is much more of the structural side and the exterior and kind of like engineering. And then I was like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'm much more interested on the inside of just, like, I like the space planning and the dimensions and drawing it out and like blueprints. Like we learned how to hand draft everything and create a floor plan and elevations and all that. And I enjoyed that part. But the physics or any of that was like, no, it's not for me. Definitely more on the creative side of things.
Not the science side of things.
So that pretty much decided it for me. I think that was like my sophomore year. So I stuck with interior design. And in school, it's much more overarching, like, because interior design, you can go into furniture, you could go into kitchen and bath, you could go into, there's a lot of little niches you could go into with it. Commercial or residential. But we did have one semester on kitchens and kind of learned about cabinets and how that went together. And I did really enjoy that. And so I did my senior internship with Merillat Cabinets, which was in Adrian and still owned by the Merillots at the time.
So cool.
So the family still owned it. But when I graduated was right when like Masco, the umbrella company, was taking it over. So there was I graduated in 2008, so it was not a great time to graduate from college.
In the middle of a recession.
Yeah,
and
it was not easy to find a job.
Probably not a lot of people doing kitchen and baths at the time.
Yeah, not a lot of people, yeah. So I interviewed all sorts of places, but they all wanted 5 years of experience, and college didn't seem to count. So I did, and I'm a little bit impatient and don't like to wait. Like I'm let's make this happen now kind of person.
Yeah.
So our church had done Katrina relief a few times. So I went down there and spent the summer down there because the woman in charge of the program at the time was an architect and they were building some new houses. So I thought, well, at least I can use some of my skills and maybe learn something from her while I'm trying to get a job. Because I was still doing like phone call interviews. And I think shortly before I left for that, I had my first job. He reached out to me and I was doing phone interviews with him. And it was a hardware store in Juneau, Alaska. And they found my resume on Career Builder or something like that. But he gave me like a month to think about it. And so that was really nice. He like called my parents. I'm not some weirdo. Talk to your daughter and like let me research what the weather was like and talk to some of the people that worked for him and get to know the church that was out there and stuff because he knew that was important to me. So I ended up taking the job because I was like, well, I don't have to stay forever, but I need to start getting work experience and this will look good on my resume. So I took the leap and moved out to Alaska I was out there for just under 2 years doing kitchen and bath design at the Little Ace hardware store. Huh. Yeah. So, but I liked it more than I thought I would. It was a small town feel, but I did learn a lot and because it was more of a hardware store, I did more than just the kitchen and bath department. I got, helped wherever things were needed, learned how to do the cash register, learned how to do closing and some things like that I had only done a little bit of before because I just had summer jobs through high school and college and stuff. So it was good. And it did work. It did look good on my resume. But my then boyfriend, who is now my husband, we started dating shortly before we went to do the Katrina relief stuff. As he had done it before and I asked him to go with me just because I was like, I don't want to go by myself. And then you spend a lot of time together and things happen. So we started dating shortly before I moved to Alaska. Then Thanksgiving night, he showed up at my doorstep in Alaska and I didn't know he was coming. And he goes, I'm just visiting. And I was like, no, you're staying. Because I didn't know anybody else out there and I had missed him a lot. So he found a job and a place to live and he ended up staying out there too. So then we knew we wanted to get married. So I found a job closer to home and then we moved back. And I worked for a wholesale supplier for 8 years at 2 different branches for them and did kitchen and bath there. Which was good, and I learned a lot there too, and it was just different. But with being wholesale and you're selling just to contractors, you don't get to be involved in as much of the project. So pretty much mostly I got to do the drawings, but pretty much you would help people with cabinets and countertops and not get to help with anything else, because they'd go buy it themselves, or their contractor would help them get the tile and all the other fixtures or the plumbing and stuff. So I always wanted to be involved with more of it, the whole entire thing. So when I left there, or the last year and a half I was there, I was the branch manager, which I didn't like. So then I was like, okay, let's go back into kitchen and bath design and sales. And I wanted something closer to home, because at the end of that, I was in Lansing, which was about an hour drive from home. So
where at Lansing?
Near Holt.
Okay.
Like DeWitt, Holt area.
Yep.
Yeah. So then the last 5 years, I was at a place in Brighton where it was more of a retail showroom, where we did the whole package. I mean, people would come in and just want just cabinets or just this, but you could get a whole entire project, and we would offer the installation, so I could be involved from beginning to end and guide the homeowner through every single decision, and pick every single piece all the way to the paint color. And I really enjoyed that and learned a lot more about the installation and how things go together, and what different preferences that contractors have, and the order that things are done in and why. And so that was really fun. And being closer to home, I started developing relationships with the contractors and with homeowners, clients that I had, and they were coming back. Certain contractors wanted to work with me and would ask to work with me again. And then I'd have homeowners that would come back, and I did 2 or 3 projects with them. So that built confidence in me, and I enjoyed that. And that more and more got me thinking, like, I think I could do this on my own. And people would always ask for more. Like, could you also help me? What do you think of these bar stools? Or what do you think of these lights? Or, things that, or flooring or something that maybe it wasn't part of their package that I was helping them with, but they valued the insight I had here, so they would ask for my input on those extra things. And I was always happy to help. And it felt good that I had my hand in that part as well, in the whole thing. So that was when, like, I would start getting professional photos of pictures, and I started winning awards. And yeah, I really fell in love with that. So that really kind of initiated the wheels really starting to turn, and being like, I think I could do this. And, it's close enough to home that I could make it work. And the kids were getting older, and we needed more flexibility. So that's kind of how
cool.
The long story of how it evolved.
For your husband's name is Philip?
Philip.
Mm-hmm. So when he went out to Alaska, and you said just visiting,
yeah.
Did he just literally plan to come up there a few days?
His job was a little iffy at the moment. So, I don't know. He's kind of a fly by the seat of his pants kind of guy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that he had a plan at all. He probably didn't. He was just like, hi, mister, let's go out there. And he surprised me. And then, I got help and found him a job and a place to stay. And so he stayed.
That's
it was just
awesome.
Left. He had a job back home, but it was becoming inconsistent. So it wasn't hard to
a good opportunity for him to come to Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long were you up there together?
So I had moved out there October of 2008, and then we were out there until May of 2010. So he was out there most of the time that I was there. Yeah. So, and it was just, there were things that I never would have done or seen. I met people, I was running at the time. I did track and cross country in school. So I joined like a running group and they took me on hiking and things that I never would have seen or done on my own. And then that was kind of, you're living on your own for the first time. I had an apartment and wasn't like at a dorm room or didn't have a roommate. Well, I did have
across the country.
Yeah, I was by myself. So I was just like, I enjoyed learning things at work, and then we'd go home and I would just try new recipes and cook things. I tried canning, and I tried making jam, and I tried just different recipes all the time, and trained for a marathon, and just, I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know. I don't like the cold. So I was like, Alaska. I don't know. It wasn't my first choice. Like when I was trying to find a job close to home because my family, I'm very close with my family and I like being near family and that's who we spend most of our time with still. But it just wasn't panning out. So I was like, well, okay, we'll look in Chicago and then I could still visit home. And then they reached out to me and that was the one that went the furthest with the interviewing process and everything. And I was like, well, all right. Guess this is
Like, how many
where I'm
opportunities
supposed
do you
to
get
go.
to do something like that? You
Yeah,
know, like
no,
that's
it's
a really
pretty
cool
unique.
experience.
Yeah. No, it was cool.
One, and again, so I had something kind of similar to this, but it was
Yeah.
like I was in the Alaska of the Midwest in the UP, so like not as far,
Still pretty
cold.
remote. Yeah,
But it was that
Yeah.
same thing, just moving to a place where a girl I dated went to school up there, and I was going up there every weekend or when I had a chance,
Yeah.
and I'd stay up there for far too long, and I'd literally drive home, no sleep, and go straight to work on a Monday morning, you know.
Yeah.
And so one day I decided, you know what, I'm going to move up here. And so I did. And it was like one of those, it was an experience that like got me out of home.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, there's no fallback here. I'm meeting new people, building new relationships. It just was out of a comfort zone.
Yeah. I think at first I shut down a little bit. As I can remember, like maybe the first month or first few weeks, I just kind of sat at my desk and I didn't know what to do. And I was wasting time. There wasn't a lot of business coming in and I didn't know yet how to drum up business. Like they don't really teach you sales a whole lot in college. Like I learned all the tools. I knew how to design a space, but then drumming up business or just, and then I don't know, somebody said something to me. I don't remember who it was or what they said, but it just like got me like, okay, I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for myself. I'm going to just get up and help wherever needs to be helped, you know, and then, and that just being on the floor and helping wherever help was needed and being willing to talk with people and get to know my coworkers and get to meet other people and trying different things and learning different things. And, you know, just that can create business as well, or something that you talk to someone on the floor, you help them with this, and then it comes up that you do something else or they need something else, you know? So, but yeah, I was moping a little bit at first when I got there, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm, you know, felt alone and kind of scared. And so, but yeah.
Can you relate that to starting a business?
Yeah.
Like
sure.
all of a sudden I got this like parallel.
Yes. It's a little more of a roller coaster. Like I'll have days that are depressing or you just like down on yourself or like, why is this so hard? And then the next day, you know, somehow you made the right call or closed that sale or whatever it is and you feel on top of the world. So it's a much more fluid than I think working for someone else. I did learn a lot, but it does make you get comfortable because it is easier. It is. And so that even goes through your brain too. Like, why am I doing this? Maybe I should, you know, but I do like that. I know that it's difficult because it's stretching me, right? It's forcing me to do something that I wouldn't do otherwise. Like even immediately after I left in just that first month or so, I realized like as a Christian, like, oh Lord, I was not leaning on you as much as I should have been. Like I was very secure and comfortable that in my job and I knew I was going to get paid and I knew what was happening every day and I didn't come to you and I didn't rely on you. And now I'm like, oh Lord, please help me. Like,
lots more prayers.
Now I'm praying a lot and like, get me through this and please continue. And he has, you know, and I know that he will, and he's got me through other things before, but that was a huge kind of like, oh gosh, you know, I should have been doing this all along, but I wasn't because I didn't think I had to. And now I'm scared and I'm reaching out, which is not how it should be, but that's kind of, you know, human nature. But
oh yeah,
that was a big thing that stood out to me shortly after. But and then shortly after, it was like, there's so much that I wish I would have known or things that I would have put in place before leaving my full-time job that now it's a little harder. like the money. I don't know how to manage money for a business. I did take an accounting class in college, but
It does not come back
I didn't like it. Yeah, and I don't remember any of that. So that side, I have to. I'm managing it and keeping track of it, but how to really be proactive about it and plan ahead and keep it a little more organized and be able to track things. I didn't know how to put those systems in place, and so now I have to backtrack a little bit, and I've got the help, but when you have to catch up, it takes some time to get that to that point. So that was something I wish I should have hired a bookkeeper right away, and I didn't know that or think it was that difficult. Hiring, doing more classes or learning more about how to structure a business or having certain processes and documents in place beforehand, the sooner the better. Right?
Yeah.
Says now I have the ideas and I know, because you take a lot of that for granted, right? You're working for someone else. They've already created all of these processes and standardized practices, and this is how you do it. And they've already taught you how to do it and created all the documentation and all that. And you go on your own, and you don't have any of that stuff, and you don't realize how important and what a difference it makes, right? So
it's so much easier to sell when somebody already has all the stuff all documented and ready for you to go.
Yeah, so I know the process and stuff, but if I'm going to hire someone or ever have people help me, then I'm going to have to put all this stuff on paper.
Documenting it, yep.
But making the time, because my top priority is I need to follow through for my clients and get their projects done and be able to keep them moving and get things ordered and keep that process going. So trying to fit business stuff in between keeping on top of the active clients and projects, that has been a challenge. But if I would have known and created those documents ahead of time, then it would have been a little easier. But we'll get through.
And the thing is like, it's kind of like, taking the accounting class back in college, right? It didn't apply. I wonder if you take it now, if you take a business accounting class, all of a sudden now you're paying attention. It's different, right? It's all of a sudden relevant. I don't know if you ever had this, but like you read a book and it doesn't make that much sense, or it doesn't, maybe it's even impactful, but not that impactful. And then you read it again after knowing what you know now, and you're like, whoa, this is way different now.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes happens. Like, it's hard to prepare for what you need to know as a business owner.
The hindsight. Yeah.
It's so hard. And a lot of times, and I congratulate you for starting without knowing that. And I think, because a lot of times people, and you might even be a listener listening to this right now and be stuck here, because I was stuck here for a long time of like wanting to do it and waiting for the circumstances to be perfect, waiting for, I need to know all this stuff. And a lot of it doesn't even matter to you until all of a sudden you're doing it, and now you're so much more engaged and you're going to get so much more out of it.
Yeah, I think that was kind of I debated for a while, like, okay, and talked to my husband, when am I going to make the leap? How much money should we have saved? What's the perfect scenario? And I did get to a point where like, okay, you know what? If I keep waiting, I don't really know what's the perfect scenario. We have some money saved. I've got these clients. Okay, I think I just got to do it, or else I might never do it. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that is something that's helped me a lot in sales, as an employee, as an entrepreneur, is I'm not afraid to try. I may not know it all. I may not even ask all the right questions up front. I'm going to try to, and I know there are I have good mentors and friends in the industry. I have people I can ask questions of. So the resources are out there, and maybe I'm not going to get it right. I might even fail miserably, but I will learn from it. And it's not the end of the world, right? This is, and I'm going to own up to my mistakes. Like, so whether it's in someone's project or if I do hire an employee or whatever it is, I'm going to own up and like, okay, I screwed up. What can we do to work through this? Or, how can I make it right? Or, I think you can't run away from mistakes and errors. Everybody makes them. And if you try to hide from them, it only makes it worse. So I'm going to own up to that, and I'm not going to be afraid to take action because I'm not 100% sure how it's going to go, because how often, I mean, yeah, there's certain things you feel pretty confident about and but you're not going to learn or get better or get through new things or if you don't try it.
5,000%. I was like making sure that I didn't say a single word because that was succinctly some of the best wisdom and advice on that we've had in the show, because it's again, it's putting it into action and realizing that you have the resources and the things around you to be able to go to when you need help or when you need insight, because there's going to be areas where you're stuck.
Yeah.
When we're doing something new, it's all going to feel uncomfortable, Yeah.
That's a good sign though, right?
Such a good sign.
Yeah.
But to have, to have that drive of like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to try it. And you know what, if I fail, it's not the end of the world. It's like a learning lesson here. And then, because how do you move forward if you don't, it's learning lessons, right? And we talked about that this morning. It's not failure. It's learning from this.
Yeah. Yeah. I always try to, because it is easy, you can have your short little feel down or upset about it, let that emotion out, but don't dwell on it. And definitely like, what are we going to learn from it? How could I have done that better? Like, it is going to be really frustrating, but the only way to make it, everything happens for a reason. I know we all say that, but it does. But you do have to make a conscious choice to get something positive out of it. Like, usually if it's hard or you failed, then God's trying to teach you something through that. And you're not going to learn if it's easy. You're only going to learn if it's difficult and challenging, right? But I think a lot of that comes from my dad. He always was, work hard, do your best, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to look stupid. He said, like,
That's
he
awesome.
worked at General Motors and was started on the line and worked his way up to trades and was a pipe fitter. But he said, like, he wasn't afraid to admit that he didn't know and wasn't afraid to ask questions. And that gained him respect, actually, and helped him learn a lot of things that he otherwise wouldn't know. And, so I try to keep that in mind. I hear that in my head a lot, and I have to remind myself, because you just naturally like will pull back sometimes, or the little voices get in your head and you're like, oh, I'm going to look stupid, and we're all afraid of that. But even I've trained other salespepeople and designers at various jobs and things. And I always tell them, like, do not be afraid to say, I don't know. It is better for you to be honest and then go figure it out and make sure you follow through with an answer, because there's tons of people. There's plenty of people that who you can ask or where to look. There's books, there's the internet, there's people. Like, the answer's out there. You just don't know it yet. And so
it's those little differentiators to be the difference. And it's those things like when you're new, or if you don't, even if you're not new and you don't know the answer, to be able to admit that. Yeah. Because so many people act like they know, they make it up, or they just agree with somebody, and then they tell them wrong information just because they didn't want to look stupid. Well, guess what? You're just now compounded it and wrote a check for another day, and it's going to bounce, right? Like it's going to come back to you.
Yeah. And that takes practice. Like I said, I still do it too. And like, oh, do I want to ask that question or not? But you really should make yourself do it. Mm-hmm.
I had a situation a couple weeks ago, and I was working with a client's client, and they asked me a question, and I thought I knew the answer. I was pretty confident that I had the right answer, and I told them this answer, and then I got off the phone and I realized I had the wrong answer, and I called them back. Yeah, and was like, listen, I just realized I told you the wrong thing. I thought I knew, and what I told you was completely wrong. And the guy was like, oh my God, thank you so much. It was like one of those things, like not many people do that, but now I prevented him from going down a wild goose chase and trying to get something that I invented in my mind.
Right. It's just being genuine. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody knows everything. I mean, we all need to be understanding and patient and flexible with each other. Everyone has lives. Everyone is human. I feel like that's something I want to incorporate into my paperwork, is like reminding people that there are a lot of humans involved in this project. Like, you don't know how many people are touching your cabinets and delivering them, and the number of people we have to communicate things through, to schedule, like, so things will happen. There will be mistakes. Could be delays, things are going to happen. I'm here to help us work through that, and we're going to overcome it. But, your attitude, and whether you choose to be patient and flexible or to get mad about everything, is going to have a big impact on how well this project goes.
It's huge. And so I've worked retail for years. And it's funny because there are certain sectors of people that think that the louder their voice goes, the harder you work for them. And that's the opposite. Like, it's the people that they're just so nice and they're so patient, and like, you just want to get it right for them.
Yeah. And then you want to help them because they were kind to you. Yeah.
You'll go the extra mile. Yeah. You'll go the extra avenues that you wouldn't go for anywhere else. Where there's that person that's just like making your life hell, like yelling at you, and
forget
it's like, no, I'm giving you the baseline,
Yeah, no, you don't want to go extra. Yeah, it's totally true. Your attitude has a huge impact on the success of everything, and how much people they're going to care about you. Like, I'm always going to do my best and try to care about you, and give you the same service and the best that I can that I would anyone else. But it does make it much, much harder. Yeah. And when someone is fighting back and not being understanding, or
Well, just thinking of the energy of because you want to take care of your clients, you're going to do the best thing for them, no matter if they're a difficult person to deal with, or you enjoy dealing with them. However, it becomes I have to follow up with this person versus I can't wait to call this person. They're going to be so excited.
Yes, it's very different.
It's such a different energy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So even if you're helping them and serving them the best that you can, there's still a blockage there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's for everyone involved. And I think our homeowners need to know, like, they're a part of the team. They are a part of making the project a success. It is not just on me and the contractor. Yes, we need to communicate, and we're going to do our best for you, but it is your house, and we are trying to meet the specifications that you have agreed upon, so that you can enjoy it when we're done. So they are an integral part to the team in making the project as a whole a success in communication and their attitude. And, they need to speak up. If there is something wrong, I know people don't want to complain, or they don't want to be a pain or something like that, which we appreciate to a certain extent. But at the same time, if you do have a concern, or they need to speak up too. They are the voice of, I can't be there every day. I think I try to show up once a week is a lot. That was a thing. Part of another reason why I wanted to go on my own is I wanted to be more hands-on, because, I'd always ask the contractors and the homeowners, call me, please always feel free to reach out, ask questions, let me know if you need anything. But it never failed. Anytime I showed up in person, there would be something that came up that I was glad that I was there, because I knew I wouldn't have known about it if I hadn't shown up in person. Like, they wouldn't have called me about it. And so that was a big motivator for me, is that covering a showroom, I could only go out so many times. And even then I had my countertop guys and stuff would say that they saw me on more jobs than most other designers that they worked with. But it helped for the homeowner. They don't know what questions to answer. They don't, or how to answer the questions of what edge did you pick? And they're like, I don't remember. Half the time they didn't keep the paperwork, So if I can prepare them for that, or if I can just be there and take care of that for them.
And you probably talk more the lingo of the contractors. Where
I know exactly what they're saying. I've done it 100 times, but the homeowner is a big part of the team. I think it's not always thought of that way. They're like, okay, we've hired you and you're taking care of it. And there's, they want to see it, and they might ask questions. Every homeowner is different, of course, but sometimes it just seems like they're out of it. We're working on their house, and they're just going to bring something up if they get really mad. And by that point, usually it's a little bit too late, and we have to try to figure out what is the best solution. Is it worth tearing it out? Is it not? Or how can we, but so it's better to, don't bottle it up, right? Before it becomes a big issue, communicate, ask the little questions. Nobody's going to
So
be mad.
important.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. Because we want them to be happy in the end. That's like the goal.
Yeah.
Everybody actually wants the same thing. And I think people forget that, the contractor or the homeowner, it gets forgotten. Like, oh, we are all working towards the same goal. So we need to communicate that way and, keep that open line and don't be afraid to speak up. But doing it, you can still be honest or ask a question or express a concern in a kind way. Right.
Absolutely. So a couple weeks ago, we had Ken Bogard and Grace Gavin on, and they wrote a book called No Honesty, and it's about being able to have honest, open communication, and it's a game changer in that because a lot of times we're afraid to ask for so many different reasons, whether a fear of what people are going to think, or we being pushy or needy, or we're putting a lot more on their plate. But man, that communication, when we just have that open, honest dialogue, it can solve a lot of things from happening that are going to get under your skin even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think communication is everything. That is the biggest key. And that's usually where issues or things fall apart, is because something wasn't communicated well, or somebody misunderstood somebody else, or took something the wrong way.
Yep.
And then it kind of crumbles after that. So yeah, the more open and honest and respectful that we can be with each other, then that just creates success for everyone.
It's huge. It's huge. It's the one of the difference makers is being able to have, again, that dialogue. And just like when you were talking about the clients or whatever that come back, it made me think of when I was in the cell phone industry. I had this process of I would send out a thank you card, and the last thing I'd always say in the thank you card would be, if there's anything that comes up, let me know. If you need anything, let me know. And then I'd always follow-up call like a few months later and be like, how's everything going? And I'd ask specific questions. And one time I had this client come in that was like, I went through all the process, like the same process I go with everybody. And like, over a year later it happens, and her phone is having problems, and she comes in and she's like yelling about how nobody cared and this phone's been doing this all this time. And I was like, but wait a minute, we talked like 6 months ago and you said everything was good. And she was like, and I said, and I've sent this letter, and you said that, and you responded back and said everything was good. And like, so everything's been good all this time until right now. Right. What happened? Like, I had the documented process and the communication. She didn't tell me, you know? So whether that was happening and she just didn't tell me, and she was just forgetting when I was having that conversation, or it just now started happening and she was trying to like me being able to have that communication, she instantly was like, oh, I guess you have called me, and I guess I could have told, just diffuse that situation because I had this documented.
You're like, what happened?
Yeah, what happened? Like I literally, this is the reason why I call people. I want to make sure that you're not sitting in pain or suffering over something.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what you do, it's a constant effort. No matter
effort. Yeah.
It's never going to be perfect. Things will always come up. There will also always be something, but the more open and the better that we can do it, then that can, just reduces that pain, reduces that stress. So it does need to just be always something that you're striving towards and working towards. And
I love how at the beginning, and I don't know how much we went into it, but I love at the beginning how you talked about how people don't realize how long it actually takes once you start the process. I think that's so important. How many people do you have come to you like that are kind of like behind? They wanted to start it yesterday and they're just now coming to you.
Yeah, I mean, some people be like, well, I'd like to start like at this point. Oh, I'd like to start before Thanksgiving. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, that's pushing it a little bit. I don't think people, I don't know how long it's going to take to just finalize a plan, just select and how many choices they have to make. And then how long does product take to come in, So I think that people don't think about that part. They only are thinking about how long is the actual work going to take. That's usually the question I get. And so I try to clarify that. Are you, at what point are you talking about? Are you talking, this is when you want the project to start, this is when you want the project to be done, or this is when you want to start planning the project, So you do have to clarify, what do they mean? Because usually they're only thinking of one section of what, a whole project process can take, and they don't take the planning side into
Well, you
thought.
probably people don't necessarily think about like getting the inventory in and how long that could take, and just that you don't think about the process, and that's why they bring you in, is because
Yeah.
you're the expert.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think designers is still kind of a newish industry that people are getting familiar with. But it sure makes a difference. One thing that I noticed, like when working in a showroom, is homeowners would come in, especially if they were already had a builder and maybe they were doing an entire home. Then some of them would come in and they had a designer that was helping them, and some of them would come in and they didn't have a designer that was helping them. And you could see the difference on their face and their whole demeanor. If they did not have someone guiding them through all the decisions and to help them see the big picture and what they were working towards, they were so stressed out and so overwhelmed. And I would do my best. I could help with cabinets in the kitchen and bath arena when it was that type of client. And they would ask me, like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I try to help them as much as I could, but I could only do so much being in that world. So that was also like, now if someone hired, I can. And I got a project like that, was like my first on my own project to help someone. They were building a brand new house and had to select roofing and siding and windows and decking and just so many things. And it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And the people that do have someone guiding them through all of that and helping communicate and seeing the big picture and reminding them of, here's why I chose this, because of this, 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 and this. Because all the different pieces affect one another. You can't just, go pick siding, I like that color. Go pick roofing over here, I like that color. Well, do they actually work together? Because the color of that and the color of this are going to affect each other. And then there's so many parts and pieces, and you need to see it all together. And I think, homeowners get more in like a shopping mentality. So they kind of pick one thing at a time and check it off their list, where you need to see it all as a whole and how it's going to play together. And homeowners that do have that kind of guidance, they are so much more relaxed. You can see that they're not so stressed on their face. And they make decisions faster, and they're less likely to change their mind, But the homeowners that did not have that kind of guidance and a go-to person to talk to and guide them through it, they struggled to make a decision. They were very unsure about which way they should go. They just were so stressed out. And most contractors don't want to guide them, don't want to help them pick out colors, and they know they know the process and the order of things. They know what they need to select, but they don't want to help them pick colors and coordinate things. And that's really not their forte.
That's not their area of expertise.
Be doing that. Yeah. And some higher end contractors may have designers on staff, but if you get into semi-custom or lower, then they're typically not. And then it would be on the homeowner to hire their own designer. But even I have contractors that I work with on a regular basis, and we do mostly remodeling. But even for them, they've said, like, I do all the upfront work. Now they don't have to help the homeowner pick stuff out, and they don't have to I have the money conversation and see where the budget's at, and I do all that upfront paperwork, and then it makes it easier. That takes time off of their plate. I'm doing the measuring, I'm doing all of that, and we're working together, and then he does most of the work on the second end, and I check in. So, and I've heard him say to client, like, oh yeah, she's great at that. She makes that easy. I don't have to do that. And like the relief for him that he doesn't have to do the sales end, and he doesn't have to help them pick everything out. Because I know a lot of remodelers are, they bring a homeowner in and they want to help them. They let them know, here's what you need to do. And the homeowner has to go shop, buy all the material, and select everything on their own. And how efficient is that? How often does the homeowner, are they able to get everything and select it all and get it there by the date that you want them to have it there? How often are you delayed in starting because they weren't able to have it? Or you start anyway because you need to keep your calendar, but they didn't get everything there, and now you're into delay anyway because, oh, hey, where's the hardware? Oh, we didn't pick that out yet. Oh, okay, now we're down 2 days because you're still trying to decide on hardware. And that's,
I would love to know the
avoid
success
all
fail
of that.
rate of that. That sounds horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not, I mean, it's not the homeowner's fault.
No,
like,
I know.
They don't know
the
order,
I
or
wouldn't
they
know where
don't
to start.
fully understand the impact that will have on their project. And they have a life. They have tons of other things to do.
Yep.
And so this is not their job. They're doing it, squeezing it in between other things. So it's very likely they're just not going to be able to get it done efficiently, you know? So that's where a designer comes in. They can help them stay on task. We can do a lot of that legwork for the homeowner and the contractor so that things are thought through in a big picture and individual scale, and then get done in a timely manner, and it all works together and makes sense, instead of just kind of throwing it on people and it gets done in.
We've talked so much about the client side of things. That's got to be extremely beneficial for the contractor.
Yeah, I think so, because they don't want to help them pick colors, and they don't want to help them, you know, all those parts and pieces, and most of them, like, or style's not their thing, you know. Like my favorite contractor, one time I was like I was excited about a project we were working on, and I was telling him like, oh, she wants this like boho vintage, and he was like, I don't even know what you're saying. Like, he like did not care and didn't even know what that meant.
I don't even know what that
means. He was like,
means.
okay, whatever. You don't have to. Give me the drawings and I'll put it together. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't even fully realize like that he was not even remotely interested or had any idea. Like,
Yeah.
You know? And I'm all geeked out about it, talking about what she wanted to do. And so, and I can imagine not every contractor, but most of them, like, they're good with the hands-on work. They know how to build it and put it together and to do that efficiently, and schedule themselves. But to communicate beyond that, or doing all that other, most of them are not trained in sales. They don't know how to communicate that sort of thing well. And yeah, style and color is not their thing. So yeah, they do appreciate that. Okay, she's taking care of that.
Yeah.
I'm helping them and communicating to them. Okay, this is when everything will be in. When can we start after that? It's much more succinct, you know, as to, so they can plan accordingly with all the other jobs that they have, because every job affects the next job. Like, if this job doesn't get done on time, now this job is delayed. And if that job's delayed, now you delayed the next one, you know, and that just cuts into...
And you're not getting paid
world.
all the way until it's done.
Yep.
So that's also stretching that period out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So everything affects one another. So the more efficient and planned we can be. And then the drawings for them. I know a lot of contractors will have specs written in words or on a document of here's what we're going to do, but it's kind of Greek to a homeowner. There's so much in there. It's very unlikely they're going to read the whole thing. It's hard for me to read the whole thing. And they don't even know
the Constitution, you know?
Yeah, because it can be pages and pages of information about what they're going to do. And but for a homeowner, like, that's just, it's overwhelming. They don't fully understand what all of it means or how it overlaps. And so having it also in a visual, so that's what the homeowner understands. Like, even when I do a presentation, I do the pretty color pictures, the 3D renderings, and show them the different views, and maybe have a floor plan, because there are some clients that are a little more technical, or just to know how big is this, different dimensions and things. But even a lot of clients, they don't know what they're looking at, and I'm showing them a floor plan, and they're like, whoa, wait, where am I looking at? What is this? I need to know which direction that they're looking at and orient them. But if they're looking at a 3-dimensional visual with color and it's in their space, then they understand that. That makes sense to them. So it's kind of multiple avenues of communicating. So we're saying it verbally, it's in written form, and we have visual documentation. So 3D color renderings and floor plans and elevations, and then the more dimensions and notes and things that you can have to try to clarify, this is how high I want this, and I want it this far from this wall and centered on this, you know, how those things all relate to each other. Because the client's not going to know to communicate. This is where I want the mirror set, and this is where the grab bar is supposed to go, and those kinds of things. And those are, they can easily be misunderstood or missed. I was at a job today, and she said they had the whole list of the fixtures, but I guess this got missed. And so now her whole shower is done, and they didn't put the grab bar in, and they have to figure out how to put the grab bar in after the fact. But if they would have had a drawing and known ahead of time, it would have already said this is where it goes, and they would have known to put blocking in before they tiled the whole thing, and it was closed.
Say now they tiled it.
Now it's tiled, and they're going to have to figure out how to get it secure and drill holes in the tile. I mean, you have to drill holes in the tile anyway, but if the blocking was in there, you could set it anywhere, and you wouldn't need to try to set it where a stud is or something like that, So there's things like that can save steps or make something more secure, or
huge.
So many things. So having a visual, I think, and between the homeowner and the contractor, if they're trying to communicate something on a day that I'm not there, then having those two pieces can help them. He's trying to say one thing and pointing it out in the written document, and then she's like, well, explain that to me, and then they'll have the visual that he can better help that homeowner understand what he's saying. And then if they can't, then they can contact me, and I can help, communicate that even further. But the visual usually can solve most of the problems for those kinds of just detail stuff, really.
Oh, yeah.
As I had one job, we did the whole entire master bathroom, and it went pretty smoothly. There wasn't anything too complicated. And then it got to, they were putting the hardware on the cabinets, and the contractor, and I had it in the drawing, but sometimes they don't read everything. That happens. We all could read more thoroughly, right? Emails, drawings, everything. And he asked the homeowner where they wanted the hardware, and they were like, I don't know. Like they had no. So just even little stuff that you don't think about. There's just so many details, and it can really make a difference. And especially if you're getting into aging in place, and that is crucial.
Huge difference.
The grab bars need to be in the right place and functional and long enough, or, whether you can, it's not a hard code, right? So you can choose how many grab bars you want. And, there are recommended places to put them, but you don't have to put them in every single spot. So that stuff, though, is really serious. Like can affect someone's safety, or their, like with height and just different people's abilities, then that becomes even more important.
Details matter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Details matter.
It made me think as you're talking about like your relationship between you and the contractor and what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So like the whole EOS model for business, and where you have a visionary and an integrator, and it's very hard to do business if you don't have both. Mm-hmm. And because you have the person that's going to do, but then you have the person that has the vision, which makes that doing, like, just draw me, just draw it out, and I'll get it done. Just versus like, do they have that vision, that patience? Are they asking the right questions?
Right.
I'm thinking of contractors versus you coming in and having just a different mindset around things, and they're missing all the stuff that you're getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. Is like the homeowner too is focused on more of the visual. They want it to function, and they want it to be beautiful. They want to love this new space. Yeah. But and so then I am kind of between, right? Like I see the big picture and the visual side, but the functional side, there's details in that with the grab bars and organizers and things, and how things go together that I do need to spell out. But then, trust the contractor to actually put it together, and because I don't know every single detail and trick of how they install. I'm learning as it goes, and I do ask questions, right? I know how the crown molding goes together, but would I want to cut the miters? No. I'm not the finesse. We DIY'd our first kitchen, our first house. It took us the whole 2.5 years that we lived there. So don't want to do that again. So yes, everyone has their strengths, right? For sure.
Well, it's funny because then you're doing it on yourself, right? Like it's the same thing for me. It's like looking at my business now, like looking at it from the same lens when I help other people. It's just different.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and so as a business owner, though, I'm still kind of figuring that out. Like I am working with Kevin Sabaski as well, and
Yep.
the L10 group, and just lots of different things. So learning more on that entrepreneurial side, like, okay, what are my strengths in this? This is kind of a different arena for me, and honestly, going on my own shook my confidence, or kind of a little bit. Like, I've been through sales trainings. I've learned the objection handling, all the open-ended questions and all of that. But then you kind of get thrown off your routine. It just was a whole different change. And so,
Yep.
and then you're like worried about making enough money and different things. And so it throws you off. So now I'm kind of getting back into that, regaining some of that confidence, and just be like, okay, what am I the strongest at? And I started just listening to the Buy Back Your Time book. And that's really got my wheels turning too. And like, oh man, it would be so awesome if I had someone to handle my email and my calendar for me.
Yes,
and
yeah.
how much time that sucks out of my day, and balancing all of that out. So, yeah,
I don't know about
I feel
you,
like
but emails are the biggest energy drainer of my day.
yeah, and I struggle. Like, I'm trying to get into that. Like, you have your set calendar, and you only check email or things at certain times, and it's hard. Like, I want to respond to people quickly. That's something clients have said that they liked, is that I respond quickly. But yeah, it gets disruptive if you just are constantly checking it, right? So trying to find that balance. Okay, when is the right time to check it and answer everything, and but yet still get back to people in a fairly quickly time frame.
Yep.
But yeah, so that and even with Kevin's group, like he has the Constitution, you fill out this thing and answer all these questions, and it made me think. I'm like, or what's your superpower, right? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think I used to think I knew, or I was thinking about, well, this is what I thought, what I was good at or get excited about when I worked here. But maybe it needs to be different now that I'm running the business. I don't know. So there's still like a whole learning curve with it.
What would you say your superpower was?
I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I said, when my last job before I went on my own, like I would say sales and design, or sales. I had a process. I would move people through the process, and I was always typically, first or second in sales at the branch. There was another guy, we would compete with each other. And then a lot of the times I was in top 10 for the company as a whole. And even at my job before that, I was usually in the top 10 for sales too. And it got me excited. I loved closing a deal. I had to talk about it. I thought, I just thought it was super exciting. And,
Yep.
Or if I had a design that I was excited about and I really liked how it would turn out, like I wanted to show everybody and would get excited about it. But now it's, I don't know, like I feel like, do I need to hire someone to do that side, and I need to focus on these other things? Because I've noticed now that I can be on the road more. I like being on the road. I like doing the networking and meeting with people one-on-one and getting to know them and just seeing what else is out there and meeting people. So I'm like, okay, well, what can I do that can make it so that I can be on the road and just checking in on jobs and seeing how things are going, and just being that face-to-face person for the homeowner, and then someone else can do the paperwork and process payments and get the drawings together. But I kind of can still oversee it and put my vision into it. Like, this is what I am envisioning it going, how it goes together, or the vibe of the space, and then have someone implement it. So I'm still kind of figuring all of that out and how to organize it and balance all the finances of that out. And, it's a lot, but
it's a lot. And I think that even like talking about your superpower and like that sales piece, and then you're like, I would say it was this, and I'd still say that that's probably that, because we spent all this time talking about communication. And I think that's the root of it from being good at sales, but also like, you got energized by it. It sound like when you close something, when you had these numbers come in, like you're getting energized by it. But now to the point that we've been talking about, you own a business, and now here's the finances, here's the you're fulfilling, plus you're selling and you're marketing and you're doing all the things.
Yeah.
And I know how
Yeah.
that goes, and so it's it can get confusing on what is your superpower because you're having to do all these things, but thinking about what is taking your energy versus answering the emails takes your energy, So I know that that you've recently hired, and then she went off on maternity leave. So, but like it's making that list and giving her or your person those things that
right. Yeah. So I'm excited for all the things that the different classes, entrepreneurial groups and classes that I'm in, because I'm going to learn a lot, and it's going to force me to start fleshing all of that out and writing it down and thinking it through and keeping to adjust it and learn more about myself and how I want to operate my business and where I should hire and not and all of that. But yeah, I know it's going to take time. And so that I struggle. I get impatient. So that's the part. Just like, because I mean, multiple times, like your first year of business, and like, it's only been a year. No, you're really actually doing pretty good. Like I would just tell myself like, no, if it's for being your first year in and you've done really well. And yeah, there's been struggles and ups and downs, but overall, like I can't be anything but grateful. And I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to keep growing. And I remind myself like it's hard right now because I'm learning a lot, and it's a lot at once. And I was like, even if every time you start a new job, wherever it is, it's hard. There's an adjustment just to get comfortable and get into the routine. And this is like 10 times that or more, right? Going in completely your own business and kind of almost starting it from scratch. But I didn't fully realize that, I'm like, well, I have clients, I have contractors, I know how to sell, and I know how to design a kitchen, so I can do it on my own. And I've read the E-Myth, and I've listened to like, oh, everybody thinks this, and everybody feels this way, and then you realize, oh, there's way more to it than. But I'm excited to get to the point where I can look back and see how far I've come, and what God's going to do with this, and how much He's going to teach me. I do really think. The certified aging in place piece of it, I've never really leaned into that before. I just took the course because people were coming in and asking for it. And I was like, well, maybe there's more to this that I could learn so I could help a little bit better. But I never really advertised it or did a whole lot with it. But now it's starting to come to me. I've had a few opportunities come to me that are related to that, or because I have that certification, and people are like, it's really unusual for a designer to have that certification, or it's unusual for them to have that and also know cabinets or be able to do kitchen and bath design, because kitchen and bath design is a very specific area of interior design. So not all designers know exactly, a lot of designers will maybe hire out the kitchen or bath projects or portion doing the plans or something. So, and I never really realized that was like a unique skill set, but apparently it is. So, but I've had a couple companies come to me like that need that skill set. One that I'm really excited about is near me. They specialize in ADA design and remodeling.
Oh, that's
cool. And so they reached out to me and they want to partner and want me to help them like create a living showroom for clients. So, and I could even bring my clients there, but just to see what you really can do and watch it in action. And but then
that's awesome.
That's a great resource. But so those kinds of things coming into my lap has been like, okay, I think this is the direction maybe you want me to go.
Michelle from the she's like in the boot camp. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I've met a few, like there's a ton of people like that in SiriusNet that are connected with helping
Stacey
people
Freisinger.
downsize. I met with Stacey, and she was really great to talk to her, and I learned a lot about just how that kind of what she does in the world, that world works. And so, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And I had the opportunity I helped someone that her husband has Parkinson's, and she needs to remodel their master bathroom. So she wants to keep him in the home as long as she can. But the space doesn't really accommodate. They have like temporary grab bars in right now, and it doesn't really accommodate his walker and stuff. So, but the budget's low, which can happen a lot for people. But when I can help someone that they really need it, like this is going to drastically change their lives and their safety and their ability to stay in their home. Like the added level of impact that has, and just like how much that affects, like touches my heart. And it was like, oh man, like that, I made a huge difference for them. So they, then that just, I helped her as much as I could. Right. And like, what can you afford? She told me, I was like, all right. And I did as much as I could within that price range. And she was so grateful, you know, to have that to move forward with, to start putting it into action. And I had to just hand draw it for her. Like I just went out there and measured it and started hand drawing. Like, here's what I would do, because it couldn't put the time in to like put it all in the program and do the pretty color renderings and stuff. But it still helped her a lot, and she was super grateful, and that felt really, really good.
Cool.
But so I am excited to get more into that and to learn more about that arena, and you know, because that can have a really big impact for not just the person who needs the space or the adjustment, but the family that's helping them and caring for them and gets to spend more time with them, right? Have them in the home longer.
Yeah.
And part of the class was that it is, in the long run, it's cheaper for people to stay in their home and do the remodeling than to go into a home and to pay for, you have to pay to live there, and the food and all the activities and all the things. Like it's way more expensive to move out of your home.
And I don't know how all of it works, but I worked in a nursing home before I got into sales. And I remember like, you have to like sell your home and any assets you have in order to pay for the care. If you don't have the money going in, before anyone will come and help you, like the government will come in and stuff, you have to make all your assets have to be gone. And so there were several families where, because the parents didn't want to sell their house, they'd have to sell it to a kid. And put it in their name so that then it couldn't be taken away from them, or they'd have to sell it. It was so just sad. You think about, it's horrible.
Yeah, it is really, I mean, even to remodel their home, to have to accommodate, it is hard for them to talk about that sometimes, depending on the situation, you know, but it does mean a lot. I mean, people's homes, especially if they've been in that home a long time, or it's been passed down through their family, like there's a ton of emotional attachment to that and memories. And so, yeah, it reaches a deeper level design to be able to do that kind of stuff. But it didn't come up to that extent as much when I worked in the showroom or for those kinds of places. I think it is a little more specialized. I did have the opportunity a couple times where people would just want to add, you know, I'm going to stay in my home, I just want to add grab bars near the toilet or put them in the shower but not redo the whole space. And maybe they would use them, of course. I think anybody at any age will use them unconsciously. And they weren't usually to the point that it was like, oh, I absolutely have to have this or I can't use my bathroom. But I did have one client where their son was in a wheelchair, and we modified their master bathroom so that he could use it and they could help him. And so it was like that was the most full-on ADA project. Like we made a wheelchair accessible sink. Cool. And there was room for a full 60-inch radius turnaround and a zero transition shower and all of that. And so, you know, that stuff is exciting. Yeah. So I am excited to get to dive into that more and learn more about, you know, the impact that can have. And there's more options out there than I know with this one company, I'm going to learn a lot. They even showed me, we met and they showed me a few things on what they had planned for the showroom. And I was like, oh, I've never seen that before. That's really cool. You know, so it'll be
cool
really, really neat. Yeah. I'm excited about that. It'll be really fun. So, I mean, they know the functional side. They've thought through like all the things that need to be in there to meet those kinds of needs. But, I think it will be helpful that I know those things and I can ask certain questions as well, and I'll learn from it, and then I get to help them make it pretty. Right? Like it doesn't have to be ugly and industrial or feel like a hospital.
Yeah, or feel like a hospital. Yeah,
you're trying to make it accessible, right? And I think that is a
that's a really cool thought process.
It doesn't have to be that way. Yeah, we can still make it look modern or stylish or put color into it or do some
Like a
fun,
home.
unique stuff. Yeah, we can still make it comforting and inviting, even if it has to have grab bars. But there's so many options out there now. They've made grab bars look much nicer. You can get color choices just like your faucets and all those different things, you know.
Well, you can customize anything these days.
Yeah,
You can put your
oh, yeah.
personality to anything.
Yeah. So it'll be really fun.
That's awesome. Jeanine, this has been such an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for coming down.
Yeah,
and,
thank you,
and doing
Jason.
this.
I
So
enjoyed it as well.
how do you feel afterwards?
I'm sweating a little bit, but I mean, overall, it was fun. I enjoyed the conversation very much.
Oh, this is phenomenal. Yeah, I couldn't tell you were sweating it out. This has been awesome. So it's good stuff. So thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity of you inviting me on.
My pleasure.